The topic for today is meditation. This is a question that is often asked by students. What is the course's view of meditation? Is meditation an integral part of the course? Because many students who come to the course come to it from other disciplines or spiritualities in which meditation is emphasized. In truth, meditation is not a significant aspect of the course's process, not the way it is typically considered. To be sure, when one does the workbook, the one-year training program, an integral part of almost all the lessons is some form or another of meditation. We're asked to sit quietly. Right at the beginning of the workbook, this is like 1 or 2 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes. In time, however, Jesus says, in fact, in one passage, that you'll find that even 30 minutes is not enough time to spend with God. So that spending quiet time in which one seeks to search one's mind, mind searching being an integral part of the course of the workbook process, search one's mind for all the obstacles, all the thoughts of anger, guilt, fear, anxiety, etc., that interfere with our memory of God. That meditation becomes one form of doing that, and then as our mind over time becomes increasingly quiet and stilled, then we're asked just to sit quietly, and that thoughts of the workbook lesson, thoughts of God himself to come to us. But setting that aside, since this is a one-year training program, a formal meditation is not only not a part of the course process, but in many ways would be inimical to it. There's a passage in the teacher's manual that talks about how a teacher of God should spend his day, in which Jesus specifically cautions against our quiet time or our meditation or prayer time becoming ritualistic. Namely, that it becomes, if I don't begin my day with a 30-minute meditation, if I don't sit a certain way, if I don't burn a certain candle, smell a certain incense, etc., then somehow my day is going to be ruined. And indeed, Jesus' training of us, if one could actually use that term, his training of us is to have us go through our entire day in a meditative state. Not that we tune out the world or close our eyes or sit in a corner someplace quietly, but that throughout the day we would always be mindful of his presence. So that when we find disquieting thoughts again of anger, guilt, anxiety, fear, depression, pain, or concern, any aspect of specialness, that we would know there is a presence in our mind that is sane, because at that moment we're clearly not sane. And to that same presence, that quiet presence of forgiveness and love, we would bring all of our disquieting thoughts, all of our thoughts of the ego. That's the meditation. Over and over, Jesus tells us this is a very practical course. In other words, it's meant to be applied. Well, if I believe that the only way I could feel God's presence or feel Jesus' presence is to be quiet, then what do I do when I'm in a traffic jam and all of a sudden I find myself on the verge of being late for a very important appointment, and my anxiety builds and my frustration builds and my anger at the other drivers builds? I just can't pull over or stop the car and, quote, meditate, unquote. So what we're trained to do in this course is to, again, be continually mindful of this presence of Jesus or the Holy Spirit that serves to be the correction for all of my ego thoughts. So again, when I'm caught in a traffic jam, or I'm in a meeting that is bringing up lots of anger in me, or anguish, or anxiety, and there's no way that I can excuse myself and be quiet, that I now know that I can be quiet. Even in the midst of the turmoil of the meeting, or the traffic jam, or what's going on in the world, I could be still. Right? And in the words of one workbook lesson, I could see peace instead of this. And I could see peace instead of this because peace is always in my mind and is always awaiting my changing my mind, shifting my decision maker's identification with the ego and putting it instead in the Holy Spirit's peace and his thought system of forgiveness. So that basically, again, this is not a course in meditation. In fact, the section in chapter 18, I need do nothing, specifically addresses that, and where in effect Jesus says this is not a course in meditation or contemplation. Certainly, he is not opposed to our meditating if we find that helpful. That would be absolutely silly. But all that he's saying is do not allow yourself to form a special relationship with it, wherein you would then feel, as I mentioned at the beginning, that unless I have my meditative time, I will not be at peace and I can't face my day. Rather, the training, still to say it one more time, is that we have our entire day from time of awakening to the time we go to sleep at night be an ongoing meditation in which we are continually mindful of Jesus' loving presence and his thought system of forgiveness.